Good morning, dear Stitchers. It's Judy with JBW Designs, and I want to welcome you back to my FlossTube channel. This is episode number 92, and it is Wednesday, I believe the 25th of June. I kind of have lost track. And just am so grateful for you all for taking the time to watch, for writing, emailing, making comments, sending me pictures. It's just such a joy to be part of this community. And I think when I think about how long it takes for someone who's doing floss tubes, and if you do them, you'll understand, to get everything ready. But it's all worth it. It's just, it really is. And I'm just so grateful for you as part of this stitching community. So I have several wonderful things to tell you about and show you today. And last Thursday, I received 2 gifts. And they were completely unexpected. Maybe that's the best kind, right? You don't even know they're coming. And that's the first thing that I want to share with you. And I was stunned. I was stunned by the kindness of people in our community. The time that they took to create and make the gifts was just fabulous. So the first one that I want to show you came from Megan, and there's going to be a glare on this a little bit. And it is a monogram, the letter J, and she wrote to me, and in fact, all the information about what she did is on the back of the frame. So I want to get that up close and then read to you about the source of the design, and actually I have the book that she used. So this letter came from a book called Vintage French Needlework. Yes, that's the exact title. And the author is Rouyer, and I will put the information about the book in my notes below. I have a little note to myself. She used Fox and Rabbit's 56 count, which just really is truly amazing. And it was the color flannel flower. And then she used a silk surfing for the stitches. And I mean, I haven't even tried 56 yet. I do 28/1, but for some reason 56, I guess I'll have to try it someday and realize with magnification it can be done. But Megan, thank you so much. And her gift came beautifully wrapped. She had a little seal that she did. She also sent a wonderful little note to go with her gift. So I have thanked her through email. And then I wrote to her yesterday because I was just so touched by the time that she took to create that. So let me show you the book that came from. So this is the Vintage French Needlework book, and she even told me the page she used, so I marked it so you could see it. So it was on, if you have this book already, which incidentally is a fabulous resource. So she was on page 304, and it's just such a graceful alphabet. I just love it. So what a gift. I mean, just so touching. It truly is. And then, as I said, I received a second package. How often does this happen? Not very often. From a good friend of mine. And let me show you what she made. Her name, I'll try to get it without the glare, is Maureen Sorensen. And her company is called The Heart's Content. And Maureen and I have known each other for a long time. I don't think we ever went back and figured out like how many years, but we did wholesale shows together, we did retail shows together, and I feel like Maureen is the best designer in our industry. Now, she has not been able to do shows lately because she has quite a few health problems. She had quite a fall last fall and had to have eye surgery. But when I received this, I thought, I'm amazed. So let me read about what she wrote on the back of her gift, and then I want to give you information because she still has a website, and I'll tell you about that, and I'll write it in the notes below. And she sells her kits. Since she can't do shows any longer, she is putting many of her kits on sale. I went to the website yesterday and noticed she had lots of these darling little frames, which would be perfect for your tiny gifts for Christmas or even ornaments. So this is what was written on the back. Special is a hand-stitched treasure. As every stitch pulls through the linen, you are thinking of the friend for whom it is created. This miniature sampler is from my hands and heart to yours. Love, Maureen. And if you study it, it's just, she has a little tiny J in there, a little tiny M. There's a rabbit, and all these tiny little motifs. So, what a day to get such wonderful acts of kindness, which we've been talking a lot about lately, because I just feel, I've told you stories in my past videos about things that I've experienced and certainly continue to experience. So I'm so grateful. So let me tell you about Maureen's website. It's called The Heart's Content, and she mentions right away on the website that they have had trouble with PayPal. I'm not sure what happened, but she gives you information. She actually has like a shopping cart, so you can add. Her husband makes beautiful wood products, so you could add patterns, anything that you saw that piqued your interest. So she's putting a lot of those on sale. So take a look. I think you'll love what you see. Her work is so intricate. And what I wish you could have seen is that her finishing was amazing. You'd walk into her room and every single model she had would be, a beautiful little bag or just exquisite. My friend Connie and I used to go in and just drool over all of the things that she had. So, Maureen, I'm not sure that you watch my videos, but I just want to tell you how grateful I am for you as a friend. So now I'm going to move on to my next regular scheduled topic, right? And I'm going to move some things over here. So the next thing I like to do in my floss tubes is I like to show you pictures of things that my viewers have posted. Either they posted them on Instagram or they've sent them to my Friends of JBW Designs Facebook page, or they've sent me an email with a picture. So I'm doing well this time. I didn't have to wait 4 or 6 weeks to do my next video. So I don't have a lot of pictures to show you today, but I do have a few. And ironically, there are actually 3 different finishes of the same design. So that's kind of fun also. So the first one I want to show you was stitched by Jerry T. And I knew Jerry because she used to own a shop. And this is from my Seaside series, book number 7. And I'm going to show you some other models in that series today also. I love her finish. Her daughter Maureen did the finish. She has red rickrack. I just think it's just a lovely finish. So thank you so much, Jerry and Maureen, for sending me that. And then I got another one that was, I've showed this before because I keep getting different finishes of it, but this is from the Georgian Floral Design. She stitched it over one on a 28 count cashel called Bo Peep Pink. She told me that she changed the blue of the flowers a little bit, and I always tell you, stitch what you like. And she did it with the rest with the called for DMC colors. So what I loved about this is look at that gorgeous frame. it's just so sweet. And I'm on 28. I have to, oh, let's see, do I have the book here? I do. Nope, I don't show on the booklet what the size is on a 28/1, but I'm sure it's, you know, very, very tiny because the thread count is only 83 by 55. So this is the booklet that design came from. Then the next three that I'm going to show you are so unique, as I mentioned, because the finishes are all so different. Did I pull this booklet? I'm thinking here. I thought I pulled everything, but you know, every time I do a video, it seems like there's one little part that's missing. That's okay. You've seen this one before. So the first thing I want to show you, and this was posted on my Friends of JBW Designs Facebook page, and the gal that wrote to me said, does anybody know where this flower comes from? So yes, actually I do. I was at Hobby Lobby last week and I did see it there. It's kind of like in their home decor section, and I have a product number for you. So I'm going to write myself a note to make sure I put that in the notes below for the flower, because it's a great finish for any of the year-round designs. So then, then I get another one, and this is from Karen, and I thought this was stunning. So she put it in a frame, and then look at the fabric that she mounted it on. Isn't that perfect? A little beehive pattern in just the right colors, and she matched, of course, the cording to some of the golds that are in the background. So I just loved how that turned out. Now, sometimes I don't take the best of notes. So I have a product number, I think, for this frame, but I might have to tell you about it next time. I have to double check with Karen to make sure I'm giving you the correct information. And then look at this. So the same design, this is around bees. Forgot to tell you that. So this is done by Dawn, and this, that's what I love, is I like seeing how I stitched it and then how you all change it. So Dawn stitched this on a 16 count brown Aida. She used silk and DMC. There are only two colors in this piece, and she was doing this as it's not a competition. It's part of Sherry, Colorado Cross Stitchers camp that she does every summer, and she gives everyone kind of a goal, like try a new fabric, try a new fiber, try a designer you've never done before. So I wrote back to Dawn and I said I was just tickled that she chose one of my designs for this camp competition, and I just thought it turned out beautifully. So thank you so much, Dawn, for sending that. And then, let's see, I have one other thing to tell you about. So I received an email from Marcia C., and she's part of the Sunshine Stitchers Floss Tube channel, and I had shown one of I pronounce her name wrong. I pronounced her, so it's three gals that do this. So it's Sheila, that's it, Sheila, and I pronounced her name Sheila. And so I apologize to Sheila. You can see I'm having trouble because we want to pronounce each person's name correctly. So Marcia wrote a sweet note. She said, I know you didn't mean to do this, but then she told me what the pronunciation is. I only remember because my name is often a problem for people. Also, it helps me remember how to spell Sheila's name. So that was a good reminder. Now, the next thing I have to tell you about is, and I talked about this in my last video, I am getting ready, this was a sneak peek, to publish a new collection of, another collection of the cross-stitch ornament booklets. So So as I mentioned last time, I didn't think that I had enough, and then I just worked at it and found 20 new ornaments. Not new, it's a combination of new ornaments and that I designed, and then I also pulled from books that I hadn't used before. So this is just a sample of what the ornament booklets look like. All 20 ornaments are pictured on the cover, and then what I love about it is because it is a spiral bound. It's very easy to open. Each page, I can show you, has the chart and then all of the information that you need to know, finish, sizes, colors, etc. So the good thing about a spiral bound is it's easy to lay open and lay flat. So on the back, let's see, I always picture a tree with all the ornaments from that collection. So long way around to tell you, last week I finished 3 more ornaments. It's been kind of a race to get this done because it takes a long time to put this booklet together. I'm a little bit early, but my graphic artist, I know how long this takes, so I sent all of the text to my graphic artist last week, and I actually had help with stitching. I think I had two stitchers, model stitchers, stitch 7 of the ornaments for me, and so I just sent more out to be finished, and then I finished 3 myself. So let me show you what I did. So this is one of the new designs. It's actually like a tree within a tree with another tree for the base, and I just finished it as I talked to you about last week. I always try to find a pretty fabric in my stash for the back of it. It's finished as a flat using comic board. I padded it with a little bit of felt. When I did the cording on this, I actually started it down here in the center and ended it up at the top so I could tie a knot and then make a little hanger using the corded edging. And then I just added a little bow and pearl pin. So that was one that I finished. And then I also did the little cardinal. This is from an older design, and this is so tiny. Now, I don't want to scare anyone away with this project. I stitch all my ornaments on 25 or 28 over 1, but I want to reassure you that that is not your cup of tea, that over 2 is not going to, it's going to be like 2 inches square instead of just 1 inch square. So I don't want to discourage you from saying, oh gosh, I can't do these, because you can do them. You can do them over 2 and they will look just wonderful. So this one, because it was so tiny, I decided I had to mount it on I didn't want to do just the design itself. So I mounted it on a piece of fabric, and that so you cover 2 pieces of board with your fabric, comic board, and then I just hand stitched them together. Then I mounted this on a 3rd piece of comic board and glued it to the center. I did put a little hanger in the top before I attached those 2 pieces, and then I just used twisted cording to go around the edges. And I thought that turned out pretty well. And then the 3rd one I have to show you today, is a little door. I think I call it Welcome Christmas, something like that. And this came out of one of my older books. And again, because this was so tiny, I found a fabric that I thought would set off the colors in the piece. I had covered 2 pieces of comic board, and then I just mounted this in the center, put a little ribbon at the top and a little pearl at the bottom. So those were the 3 of the finishes that I worked on last week. So I'm giving you sneak peeks. So in my last video, I mentioned to you all, that I would love to have you ask me questions. And I didn't get a lot of questions, which is fine. Maybe they'll keep coming in future videos. but I want to address the questions that were asked because I thought they were really interesting. So Pat Q had 4 questions for me. One of them I'm going to talk about at the very end. It just has to do with health, and incidentally, I'm fine. I had a cough and asthma and all kinds of things for a while. I do sound kind of scratchy. Let me get a quick drink. So Pat's first question was, do you use Q-snaps or a hoop? And I thought, well, that's a great thing to ask because everybody has their own method of stitching. So when I'm stitching my little tiny designs over 1 on 25 or 28, I always put that fabric in a Q-snap because I want that fabric to be taut, and it makes it easier to see the holes. It's kind of tricky to do a sewing method, very tricky, over 1 thread. I'm not sure. Maybe there are people that do it. I would think it would be very hard. But so I always use a Q-snap with my little ones. But I just finished a fairly large design, and I don't know, I can't tell you why I choose one or the other. Incidentally, I don't use a hoop. I either use Q-snaps or I stitch in hand. And I'm not sure why I choose one or the other, but this last piece I did is probably about like that. And I just decided it's over 2 on a 36 count, but I just decided I wanted the fabric taut, and so I use Q-snaps. So I kind of go back and forth about what I select. Pat's next question was a good one too. She said, when and how did I learn to cross stitch? So I, as a little girl, absolutely loved making things, and I had dolls, of course. I remember I had this dates how old I am, I had a little toy. It wasn't a toy, actually, it worked. A little small, tiny child's sewing machine. And I used to try to I remember making a quilt one time that had squares that were like an inch. And when I wish I still had it, but I'm sure if we looked at it, we'd go, oh dear, because I'm sure I just kept sewing, these little squares on. I'm sure it was kind of a mess, but when you're a child, anything that you create is fun. So I always loved doing sewing, and my mother made clothes and things like that, so I'm sure I learned from her. What I remember about learning how to cross stitch, and this also dates me, is that we used to go to our local dime store and you could get printed and then this was before cross stitch and Aida and linen became so popular. You could get printed cross stitch designs on fabric. So I remember doing pillowcases. I actually have a little tablecloth that my mother did years and years ago, and I've just kept it for sentimental reasons. But so that's how I first learned to cross stitch. I was on a stamped linen with all the colors, etc. And then I'll tell you real quickly, and I might have mentioned this before, but I actually started out as an adult doing, let's see, what shall I say? I started out when I was pretty early in our marriage. I started actually with needlepoint. And I had a friend, Paris Ritchie, and we lived in Midland, Michigan. And one day she called and she said, would you like to take a needlepoint class? And that was when needlepoint was becoming very popular. And I said, oh, that sounds great. And I loved it. As a typical needlepoint class usually goes, you're making a sampler, but it's like very simple, almost like a quilt block. So every block was a different stitch, which is a great way to learn a lot. And you learn how to compensate in that square, etc. And I just thought it was great. And so I'm going to tell you real quickly kind of the progression of how did I get to this point. And it wasn't planned. It wasn't planned. It just kind of happened. So after I kept taking needlepoint classes, and then we moved to the Detroit area, and I joined an embroiderers guild, and it was a wonderful guild. We had so many talented people in our group, and I started taking classes from the EGA teachers, going to seminars. I absolutely loved it. I learned so much, and I had so many good teachers. So we moved around the state of Michigan with my husband's job, and a couple years later, we moved to Kalamazoo, and I had 3 good friends who lived here, and I thought, I think I'm going to teach them how to do needlepoint. Well, I don't know about you, but in one's life, you have people who either love to stitch or it just does not come naturally to them. So I'm happy to report that these 3 gals are still very, very good friends. They haven't deserted me, but it wasn't really their cup of tea. I just think I didn't know how I was going, even though I was a teacher, I wasn't sure how I was going to teach that. And I finally decided I had to design teaching pieces if I was going to teach needlepoint. And that's what I did. I started designing pieces that could be used for classes, and I actually taught in my home for quite a while, and then I taught in a store for quite a while, and the manager of that store was fabulous, and I would finish a class, and she really was a mentor to me because she'd say, Judy, what are you going to do next? So this is a long story to tell you how did I get to designing cross stitch. Well, in the early 80s, so I was designing needlepoint pieces and selling those patterns, very limited, but I was selling the patterns that I used as teaching pieces to shops because they often needed class materials. So then cross stitch became so big, and I want to say early 80s, and I decided I was going to switch from needlepoint to cross stitch. So that's a long story to answer that question, but that's kind of how I started. And I never intended to have a business. I think my main goal was just to design and teach, but then the cross stitch industry really, just mushroomed during those early years, and I found out I could sell my patterns and I could go to shows and exhibit and meet shop owners. So it's been a wonderful journey. I can tell you that. So her next question was interesting. She said, "What's my favorite design?" And this is similar to a question where someone says to you, "Who is your favorite child?" Because I went back and looked at what number booklet I'm on. I just finished, the next booklet I publish will be 461. It's very hard to choose a favorite, but she asked the question, and so I gave it some thought, and I thought, I'm not sure I can choose one, but I'll choose 3. So I've picked out 3. Actually, I don't have the models for 2 of them. I do for 1 of them. I've picked out 3, which how do you say it's your favorite? I guess it's just what appeals to your heart. So the first one I'm going to show you is actually, I'll tell you a little bit about it first, is actually a set of 4 designs. And in the beginning, when I did this this set of 4 booklets, I had not intended, I thought that they would be individual ornaments and that I didn't see them as a whole, one single piece. But towards the end of the designing process, and I'm not sure, let me look at, I'm looking at the booklets, okay. So after I got to number 3, I realized, oh, this might look really nice as one whole design. So what did I do? So this is from the Christmas Village collection, and each booklet has 3 buildings in it, obviously. A barn, a church, a little house. You can see there's a little gingerbread house. Here's a schoolhouse and a barn, etc. Here's a Victorian house and a covered bridge. So there were 12 altogether. So I'm going to show you the model, and I don't do this very often, and I'll tell you why, that has all of the designs in it. I actually ended up only using 11 of the buildings in the design. And the reason I don't show this very often, well, let me look back to see when I published these. That's one of the reasons. So this was published, this set, 15 years ago, which is quite a while. So the first one came out in 2010. So this is Christmas Village, worked as a single design. And I'll read to you the lettering and then tell you what has happened to the model. It says, and it's one of my favorite Christmas quotes, it says, "I will honor Christmas and try to keep it in my heart." And what happened, and I've heard other people talk about this too. I can't even tell you what color it was that I used it, but I've heard other people say. So I used a hand-dyed fiber for the lettering, and it has faded so badly from the original color that it barely shows up at all. So it makes me kind of sad because I just love the look of this design. I guess someday I'll have to stitch it again and put in, a color for the lettering that's going to stay with us. But so that was number one of my favorites. Let's see. I need to figure out where to set this because I have a lot of things around me here. And then I couldn't stop, of course, at just one, so I'm going to show you two others. I would say this comes in the top three, the Bluebird of Happiness design. And as you know, this was designed originally for Keepsakes in Ohio, a shop in Ohio, and I was asked to teach at one of their retreats. And this came out, you know what, I don't even see a copyright date. It was, 3 or 4 years ago. But it was based on an antique piece that I had purchased, so these birds right here were in that antique piece. It says, "May the Bluebird of Happiness always reside within you." I don't know, I just like the composition. Of course, it's blue, so I love the colors. So that falls into the top three. And then this next one also is blue. How would you guess? And this is probably also one of my very favorites. And this is called Fleur de Alphabets. Actually, I've stitched it in red, I believe. Let's see if I can find on the back or the inside. No, I only show the two colors of blue in the original booklet. I thought I'd stitched another one of it, but choose your favorite color. It would look fabulous. And this is what that Fleur de Alphabet booklet looks like. So those, Pat, are I would say, top three of my favorites. Then I had another question from Josie, and she is a retired 3rd and 4th grade teacher. And I have mentioned, of course, that I was a teacher before. She wanted to know what was my favorite grade. Well, the funny thing is I only taught one grade. I taught 1st grade. And we laugh because often when I'm teaching, I even though I'm teaching adults, I still sound like a 1st grade teacher. So, and I did not teach for that long, Josie. I only taught for about 3.5 years. And then our son was born and I was able to stay home. But then, of course, my career switched and I ended up teaching adults. And that's been wonderful too. And then the last question I have is interesting because I have gotten comments on this before. I'm going to hold it up for you. It's quite heavy. Let's see. Let me see if I can move things out of the way so I can rest it on my desk here. And this was asked by Anne and also by RYSI. And they asked the same question. So I often film my videos in different places in my office. I'm sure you would laugh at what I do, but so sometimes I don't use my camera, I use my desktop. So sometimes I am with my back towards the windows. Sometimes the wall behind my desk is on view, and sometimes it's the other end of the office where I have my bookcases and every wall is covered with models, that's for sure. So the question they had, and it's such a good one, is they have spotted this piece. As I said, it's very large, so I'm going to have to kind of prop it up here to show it to you. So this sits, it's going to have a glare because it has glass on it. I'm going to move out of the screen so you can see it. This sits on the wall behind my desk, and it is just stunning, but it is not a cross-stitch piece, and I'm going to have to scoot it down like this so you can see it. It is actually, I was very lucky. I was able to go to France years ago, and this is actually a piece of French toile, and I love the color, I love the design of it, and actually I have thought about trying to do a kind of an adaptation of this in one or two colors. It looks quite daunting to me. I would not do the whole thing, I would just pick out elements. But thank you ladies for asking about it. It does, from afar, it kind of looks like a cross-stitch piece, but it's just one of my favorite pieces in this room. So let me get this out of the way. Okay, I am back, scooting along here. So I have a quick theme for the day. I'm kind of going on quite long. So because it's summertime here and very, very hot, which I'm sure it is where you live too, I decided that would be my theme for the day. So then when I think of a theme, I always then go into, things are falling. Just 1 minute as I try to rescue things that are falling apart here. So I go into my closet, which is full of bins of models, and I look through to find what could I do for my theme. So I chose three, actually 2 different large designs, and then I'm going to show you the Seaside collection too today, and I'll try to do that quickly. So this is called Seaside Alphabet, and let me see, this is the booklet for it. It was designed in 2014, so again, it's one of my older pieces. It is still available, but I love it was so much fun to put together and think of all the motifs that you could use. It is stitched, let's see, let's look at this. It's stitched on a 32 linen. It was, I don't know that it's still available. It has a very faint polka dot in the background. And of course there's a lighthouse and a sailboat and little cabanas and birds and a beach umbrella and an anchor and another lighthouse and sailboats, little flip-flops. So it was just flags. It was just fun to put together. So that's one of my, sorry about that, summertime pieces. And then another one is right here, and this is similar in style. This is called a Patriotic alphabet. And let's see what year that was published. That was published in 2013. So as you can see, it's a very long horizontal design using the alphabet and then all kinds of things that are patriotic. So we've got flags and a schoolhouse and watermelon and a horn and a drum and bunting, everything red, white, and blue, right? So this is what the booklet looks like, and this is what the design looks like. This was stitched also on a fabric flare, striped fabric. They may still have a version of this, but you could choose any color. I mean, I could see it being done on a number of different colors of linen or Aida. So now the last section here, if you'll bear with me, wow, I seem to do a lot of moving, don't I? But it's hard to get everything within reach. So I'm going to grab these And try to go through these quickly. Hopefully you're stitching on something you love. So I have done, as I mentioned, 8 booklets that fall into this Seaside category. And the first one actually had 3 designs in it, the rest just have 2. I stitched the designs both over 2 and over 1. This is the last of that collection, and I'll quickly show you what the models look like. So in that booklet there's an egret, and again they're made up, you can see, of all kinds of little motifs that you would find on the seashore, and then there was also a little seal in that booklet. So that was book 8. I'm just going to grab whatever is close by here. So here is book 1. This had an angelfish, a seahorse, and a flamingo. And I pulled out 2 of those models. Here is the flamingo, and here is the little seahorse. I love the finishing that my finisher did on those. And then the next booklet I'm going to show you, oops, I had doubles of that. Here's Seaside VII, and that had the sailboat that I showed you earlier, and then a beach umbrella. And my finisher, I have these, as I mentioned, stitched over 2 and over 1. These are the over 1s, and she made them into just a little double piece. I love how that turned out. Alright, the next set that I'm going to show you is, okay, I have to get the right booklet here. So in booklet 5, you'll see a seagull and a conch shell. It's hard to say quickly. And at the time I had a finisher, and I'm so sorry that she's no longer doing it, whose work was exquisite. So I love showing these models. She used felted wool for the background. So that is the conch shell. And I think you could reproduce it by just looking at the picture on the cover of the booklet. And then the little seagull was mounted on a child's sand pail. Isn't that just wonderful? And I have 2 more that she did also. This is Seaside Series 4, and she did, I designed the sea turtle. Just fabulous, the amount of handwork that went into that. And then I also did a little lobster, and that's on a little lifesaver. So just beautiful, aren't they? And then, let's see, I have 3 more to show you. Book 6 contained the mermaid and the starfish. So this was the mermaid. This is the starfish. Again, my finishers did just such a fabulous job. And then the last 4 that I have to show you are so interesting because I don't know if, yes, oh good. All right, I wanted to show you why these were designed as they were. So first I'll show you the booklet covers. So this is Seaside Series 3, which has the crab and the dolphin, and this is Seaside Series 2, which has a seashell and a pelican. So she finished these, as I fumble here, well actually there were 2 ways that they were finished. I forgot about this, I just saw the other picture. So she mounted them, I'll show you what the dolphin looks like, and put them in a child's pail with sand and shells around the bottom. And I always thought that was so clever. I think you could do that with other smalls that you've done. So that's the dolphin. Here is the seashell. Here is the pelican. And here is the crab. And the other, I've forgotten about this, she also finished them as a banner. And these were the ones that I stitched over 1, and then she hung them as a little banner. And you could do that with the over 2 also. So such clever finishing ideas. So that kind of is the end of my summertime theme. I have a couple other topics to cover before I say goodbye. The first one has to do with someone actually wrote to me in one of the comments in the last video, and I love this. If you have shops you'd like me to feature, I like to feature a shop every time I do a video, because as I've said, the shops are the things that keep me going, keep all designers going. And she said, would you mention Barefoot Needle Art? And I said, I would be happy to. And I have heard from others, it is in Seaside Beach, South Carolina, that this is a fabulous shop, and their models are finished so beautifully. So this is my shop, my special shop of the week. You can see the address here. I'll hold it for a minute. It's owned by Memory and Amy, and they are designing also. You can see their website. Hopefully I typed it correctly. Last week I noticed in my shop that I featured the last video, I had added an extra zip code number, so you always have to make sure I've done this correctly, right? So Barefoot Needle Art, I would encourage you, if you're not close to them, write to them or give them a call and see if they can order things for you. I'm sure they do mail order all the time, fabrics, fibers, patterns, etc. So I always like to give prizes every time I do a video, and I choose 3 names from the random number generator, and if you hear your name announced, you just have to email me. That's the best way to reach me, and tell me what design I showed today that you would like to have yourself, and I'd be happy to send it to you. So the first name that I pulled was Justine D. The second name was Kathy C. And the third name was Diane RUNO 49. So ladies, if you hear your name announced, please just write to me and tell me what you'd like to get. Let's see, what are my last things I have to tell you about? Oh, I always like to have a quotation that I read, and as you know, my theme is kindness this year, and so I found one that actually is perfect for this week because I received unexpected kindness. This uses that phrase in the quote. Unexpected kindness is the most powerful, least costly, and most underrated agent of human change. And isn't that true? We know when we do something for someone else that they don't expect, or even just in our daily lives, that it can make a world of difference in someone's life. So let's all go out and practice our kindness in the next couple weeks. So a quick life update. As I mentioned, I'm fine. I had told a story last time about how I pulled a muscle trying to get into the bottom of a bin. That has healed. My only health update is now I have poison ivy from out there weeding in the yard. So, but I'm fine. This is good news. And then the only other life update is that we're getting together with our family a week from Friday for the 4th of July. And I'm hoping that you and friends or people in your life are going to celebrate too, because it's always a fun occasion. And if not, maybe you just prefer to stay home and stitch, and that's great too. So how to contact me? Email is best. Judy@jbwdesigns.com. My Instagram account is judy.whitman, and my Friends of JBW Designs is on Facebook. And you just have to answer a few questions and you're in. And we've been getting a lot of new members lately. It's very exciting. And I also want to thank all of you who are not only liking the videos but subscribing, and keep writing. I just love your notes. So thank you so much. We'll hope that this worked well, and I'll see you hopefully in just a few weeks. Bye-bye.